everyone. Welcome back to our Game of Thrones recap podcast.
Woo!
I'm Cameron.
And I'm Zach.
And you're watching the Watching You Watch podcast.
Woo!
This is episode 5 of our podcast, and also of Game of Thrones season 1 that we are watching. Yeah. And if you're tuning in for the first time, the concept kind of that we're going with here is that I've seen Game of Thrones before, and Zach hasn't.
Not even at all.
And so we're just leading Zach on a journey through such wonderful events that happen in Game of Thrones.
Like dog deaths and like sadness.
And incest.
Yeah. Gosh.
And I'm watching Zach as he watches this and just getting so much joy out of it.
Yeah, he is. Okay, you need to invite your friends onto this so that, like, the ones that haven't watched, like me, so I have, like, some people I can talk to, because I can't talk to anyone I know, because they've all seen it, and I haven't, and it's the worst.
So, yeah, if you're, like, one of those people who has seen Game of Thrones, who has read the books, and has a bunch of friends who haven't seen the show or read the books, like, go out there and do it, because it's priceless. Like, go out and show your friends Game of Thrones, sit them down and be like, hey, you're watching this. And, watch them watch every agonizing minute of it. It's worth it.
He just, like, keeps my tears in a bottle and treasures it.
Anyway, as of the date of this recording, Season 5 is playing right now.
Oh, my goodness.
It's really good, but Zach can't, like, be on the internet at all.
I just can't.
For the sake of spoilers. I'm enjoying Season 5 thoroughly as it's going on right now, but we're not here to talk about Season 5, we're here to talk about Season 1.
Episode 5.
Episode 5, yes.
Tie-ins.
Which is entitled The Wolf and the Lion. And we just sat down and watched that one, and I have to say, I feel bad for Zach with his recapping now, because it's gotten a little out of hand with just how much is going on in the show. Man. I kind of forgot myself just how much happens in this episode. So I think
he says not stopping smiling at all.
So anyway, I just think this time, instead of asking Zach to give a full recap, because I feel like that would just be pure torture for you.
Yeah.
I think what we're going to do is just give us the highlights, Zach.
All right.
What was the highlights?
I will tell you what I feel are the most important things. So we start, everyone's doing everything everywhere. So let's go to King's Landing. Ned Stark is all getting into this business and doing his detectiving, and then it comes down to the king actually calls him to a meeting. He's like, holy crap, the king is calling me to a meeting, but I don't want to because now my wife is doing crazy things with Tyrion, and oh man. So he goes in there, and they're all like, we have received word that Khal Drogo has a wife named Daenerys, and she is with child, and if he has a boy, we're all going to die, so let's kill her. Ned, go kill her. And he's like, no, my honor says no. And he's like, if you don't do it, you're out. And he's like, fine. And he puts his hand symbol down and, like, just walks out.
Yep, because Sean Bean don't kill no little girls.
No.
Pregnant girls.
No. Good for him. He's a shining ray of light in this universe.
Yes, he is.
But, yeah, and that goes horribly wrong for him, because at the end of the episode, Jaime confronts him after he got, like, a little extra piece of info from somebody under Littlefinger's employ, to be kind. And so he and Jaime get into a big old fight, and then one of the soldiers is like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stab him in the leg. Didn't I do great, Jaime? I did great. Yeah, I did great. And punches him in the face, because Jaime wanted that. He kind of wanted to kill Ned. You got that feeling. And he killed a second-hand man. I was just starting to like him. I didn't even get to learn his name.
Yeah, Sir Jory.
Well,
poor Sir Jory.
Doesn't even matter.
Yep.
But yeah, okay. And Catelyn basically got Tyrion to her crazy sister in the Vale, who was, like, breastfeeding her child, and yeah, she's like paranoid schizophrenic 101 right there.
Yeah, let's be clear too, by the way, that this child that she's breastfeeding is not a baby.
No.
This kid's like 12 years old or something.
Oh my that makes it even weirder, because he looked like he was 8. But
I don't even know.
Yeah.
He's just clearly not supposed to be breastfeeding.
No. And so they're like, oh, a Lannister, we have a special room for you. And they put him into this cell that is like open air. So it's like, you can live or you can suicide, whatever you like. Okay. And then we finally get to see more of John's brother. Robert's brother. Yes.
Robert's brother, the king.
God.
Okay, I was like trying to track with who you were talking
I'm
about.
sorry, too many names. It
No,
hurts.
yeah, we were talking about King Robert's brother, Renly.
Yeah, and he and who I had previously known as Darian the Knight.
Let's be clear too. That's because you thought he was like a tuxedo mask.
Yeah,
sort of
because
character.
roses. He gave Sansa roses. He's like, "You're the best," and everyone's like, "Yeah, Sansa,
Yeah.
your gaydar is not on."
Yeah, your gaydar is just non-existent.
Yeah, so basically that's the big thing you find out about that. And they also have their own little plots. Like, the Knight of Flowers is all like, you'd be a great king, you're kind and great and all this stuff, and I would, like, fight for you, and And he's like, oh, and they're like, and then, HBO. So, other points of interest, Arya Stark was running around, and she hears, I'm pretty sure it's Varys.
Varys, yes.
Yeah, all right, getting it. And
You're learning the names. I'm so proud of you, Zach.
It's if we have a long span between recordings, it could go away. But he's basically saying, now we're finally getting the connection across the Narrow Sea. He is connected to some people who are with Drogo, and it seems as if they're vying to get Daenerys.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. To be in power. Well, not Daenerys so much as Viserys.
Yes,
Malfoy.
because he's Viserys Malfoy.
It's getting better.
Yes. No, I mean, you didn't get to see him beyond... Well, you didn't see him at all in this episode, so therefore you didn't see any of that venereal disease stuff that you usually know him for.
Worst. But yeah, and then there was like a huge word information slinging battle between Littlefinger and Varys, and that was neat. And Varys actually went to Ned to talk to him that if he, he's gonna be the king's rock, and basically if he doesn't stay there, the king will die due to poisoning that's been happening to him, and no one's getting to it's funny because Varys probably knows, but he won't get to the bottom of it. He wants to send this poor honorable man that dies in every movie he's in to go do it for him. And well, if that's not a death flag, I don't know what it is.
I mean, well, Varys does tell him though that he believes in Ned.
Which is cool.
He's like, you're a man of honor. I like to think of myself as a man of honor. Let's work together.
Mm-hmm. Those were the high points for me. Other than that, we got to raise our death count by
oh my gosh,
200%.
Let's just say in this one episode, there was more death in this episode than all the previous episodes combined. But more on that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was episode 5 of season 1 in a nutshell.
Okay, that was better than
the
I thought.
highlights of it. You did it. See, I mean, okay, there is a lot more that happens in it, but don't worry, we're gonna talk about it.
Details that will become ridiculously important later.
So yeah, this is an interesting episode in the way that a lot of the setup is done. We have reached the point where setting up the conflicts of season 1 is finally over, and now we're seeing these power players sort of just move, and it's really interesting to watch. I think another thing to take away from this episode is that the side characters are they've taken center stage this episode.
Yeah.
Characters that we've been following, like Ned and Catelyn, of course, are still there, but Daenerys isn't even in this episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, we get maybe one scene with Bran and whatnot. We get more scenes in this episode with our side players like Varys, like Littlefinger.
And Greyjoy guy.
Yeah, and Theon Greyjoy. Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. There's a couple of very interesting scenes of just people talking in this episode. We had a scene where Cersei, the Queen, and Robert
Oh my
talk.
goodness, they had the best.
They have a very great conversation. We also have, you already talked about Renly and Loras, their little private discussion there, and then Varys and Littlefinger in their little word battle.
Okay.
Which of those scenes did you find the most interesting, or most what about them, I guess, which one was the most interesting to you? Which one do you want to find out? Which of those pairings do you want to explore more?
At first, I thought the Robert Cersei thing was going to be, I don't know, that was actually more of a funny aside. At first I thought she was going in there to, work her little tricksy magic, but the more I see her, the more I find I cannot gauge her as a person, which is what annoys me.
It's really interesting because she goes back and forth between someone you can sort of root for and someone that you just despise.
Yeah.
I think of the moment in episode 1, she's telling Jaime to push Bran out a window.
Yeah.
And then episode 2, she's coming to Catelyn being I miscarried my first baby. I know what it's like to lose a child, blah, blah, blah. And it's oh my gosh, I don't know where she falls in the spectrum of am I supposed to like her or not?
Although, I do have to say that personally, my favorite probably was between Varys and Littlefinger, just because it was just, like, the first time we really got to see, like, Varys, like, being, like, a full scene for a long time, which was neat, which was fun. And they just, like, attacked each other on all their information fronts. It was super fun in that respect.
I love the scene, or the line in that scene where Littlefinger asks if Varys's balls are kept in a box somewhere. And then Varys says something like,
he was...
It's like, I wish I would know where they were too. We were terribly close once, you know. And I just die at that.
Yeah, he really owns who he is, and
Yes.
that's what makes him one of the best characters in this series.
Right. Which is interesting too, because you say that, and that was also, I think, a lot of what Cersei and Robert's conversation was about. There's that joke that they both make to each other about, like, our kingdom is crap, so what's holding it together? And Cersei's
Hatred.
like, no, Cersei says, it's our marriage, and then they both laugh.
Yeah,
It's such like a perfect scene of like wry humor that they both find funny, even though they're constantly at each other's throats.
Yeah, just there was a lot of that this episode. It went between like really serious bits and just like this back and forth, like two people in a scene sort of thing. This definitely is my favorite episode so far, and it's like you're right. We've finally gotten out of the introduction phase, and now we're into everyone's playing the game phase.
Yes. Speaking of games, let's transition to a different type of game. Let's talk about the joust at the beginning of that. We had sort of an epic confrontation between the Mountain, who we saw last episode killing Sir Hugh in a seeming accident, and now we saw a joust between the Mountain and Sir Loras. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, that was he pulled a medieval rage quit and almost killed his own brother due to it. I love the fact that, like, when the Hound stepped in and, like, fought the Mountain, the only thing that saved him in the end was that he bowed to the king. Like, that was, like, the
he
coolest
just
thing
bows
I've ever
and the sword
seen.
just flies over his head.
Like, seriously, that was the coolest. I don't know, but...
And of course, then you have good guy Loras, who comes by and is like, hey, let's cheer for the Hound because he just saved my butt from getting murderized by the Mountain.
Yeah, and Renly was all about that.
Yeah, Renly was. I mean, you saw the way he bolted up, like when he started getting attacked. There.
Yeah,
It's just like, no.
If you didn't figure out what was going to happen in the later scene.
Yeah, I think it's funny too because we were talking about banter earlier, and there's a little bit of banter between Renly and Littlefinger in there, and like Renly's like, like maybe you could buy a friend, Littlefinger, if you win this bet, and then like Littlefinger loses, but he still like calls out Renly on his secret proclivities, and Renly has like,
it is.
Oh, I know. I feel like I want to ask you right now, like, how much of a secret do you think that really is, like, generally to everybody? Is it a secret or no?
That's a good question.
Is it one of those like secrets that's not really secret?
All the Yeah, the thing with it is it's funny. I love how he like talked about like, oh no, my brother's gonna take me on like a 2-week hunting trip until he can just stab something, and I hate everything. So I have to wonder if I feel like it's one of those situations where everyone knows but his brother.
Everybody knows but the king.
At least my headcanon is that, because I feel like he'd be one of those people that would get like very like offended at first or something. I don't know. Or maybe he knows, and he does it despite him. The thing with it is I actually got to see Robert as like not a complete idiot this episode sometimes, which is nice.
You do see him like in the scene with Cersei and the scene where he makes a kind of a compelling argument for why they should kill Daenerys. You kind of see Robert as a lot less bumbling than you previously saw him before.
Yeah. And it's cool because the scene with Cersei also like opened us the character. He doesn't want to be bumbling. His kingship's not just what he thought it would be.
Right. And which is interesting too, because there's that interesting thing where he talks about how which is the bigger number, 1 or 5, and he holds up 5 fingers, then he holds up 1 fist, and obviously he makes the point like the fist is better because it's unified, and he's bringing up the point already that they lost that unification when they killed the Mad King. So what do you think that means for Westeros moving forward?
Well, he pulled out a very good point, and I think it's very poignant that he understands exactly the state his kingdom's in, because if one united force came into there, they'd be screwed, because there are so many different people who want so many different things for the throne and, like, where Westeros is going to go. So they are not really a unified unit, and they're going to... I mean, they don't even necessarily need the Dothraki to crumble on themselves.
Right. Well, I'm just curious, with even right now, how fractured everything seems, what do you think it would take to make everybody in Westeros kind of like join together again?
Dothraki, ice zombies, Godzilla, I don't know. Something really big. Like, it would honestly take a world-shattering event to do it. Maybe it'll be the winter that is evidently coming. Who knows?
It might be that.
Because, like, right now, I mean, that's basically how I feel like these things work, the politics. Everyone does their stuff when it's nice and warm, and in the winter, everyone's just like, we gotta survive. So, until that starts to happen, things are probably only going to degrade into more backstabbing and ridiculous squabbling.
Well, let's move on to... we already kind of touched on this a little bit with Renly and Loras' secret, how well kept it is. There's this notion of privacy that we're not even really sure of anymore as a thing. I mean, Varys has a conversation with Ned this episode where he's very careful, like, hey, like, close the door, close the windows, and then also in the episode, Yoren from the Night Watch comes in and is like, hey, I gotta tell you something about your wife, please close your door, like, do this. But, I mean, like, it doesn't matter, everybody seems to know everything already, and it's like there's no privacy at all in King's Landing, like, whatsoever. But obviously we know who the power players are in brokering this information. It's Varys, it's Littlefinger, it's maybe some other people. Who do you think? Well, maybe Cersei. Maybe it's her too. Anyway, in your opinion right now, who do you think has like the grasp on the most information, or maybe like the most key information? Who do you think has like the biggest amount of collected knowledge?
I feel like it's Varys, because even though different people put out like different bits of information, I consider the Lannisters a unit with their information that they know. Not even the Lannisters or Littlefinger seem to have as much knowledge, or I don't know. I just feel like he has his fingers in so many different pots so that he kind of knows the most. Everyone else sort of, I mean, Littlefinger's information is basically, at this point, he's in Catelyn Protecto mode. Basically,
I feel like he's always been in Catelyn Protecto mode.
Yeah, but now he's like, now he would not like bring in as much information because his sources are now. It's funny because he's probably focusing more of his people on other people rather than just like doing what he would normally do to get more things. I feel Varys knows the most things and is working the most connections, because it's crazy because he's playing like good guy to people across the sea and in like to Jorah.
I wonder why this is.
It's crazy. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's weird because my worst fear is that he's working on like Ned's sort of honor, but like in a super like crazy weird way where he's still being like loyal to the Mad King and like everyone else is like posers.
Do you think maybe that he is lying to Ned? Do you think he's trying to take Ned down?
Oh my goodness. I don't think anyone is on Ned Stark's side, which is the worst. That poor man. That poor man. I honestly don't know, though.
Okay.
I don't know what his game is because his game is so huge.
Yeah, I don't want to say any more.
Yeah, don't. No, you dare.
So I kind of have another burning question for you that I've been meaning to ask for a while now in this, and I think now is as good a time as any before things really pick up at the second half of the season. But there's been a lot of talk about the Lannisters, and particularly Cersei and Jaime and Tywin's father, who has not yet been introduced in the show.
Yeah.
His name is Tywin, but they have talked about him a lot in the show, and I kind of want your thoughts about what kind of person do you think Tywin is without seeing Tywin in the show, just by seeing Tywin's children, by seeing Tywin's what they've talked about him. I mean, Robert says like in the scene with Cersei, he's like, you talk, but I hear your father's voice. So, what kind of person do you think Tywin is? What do you think he's like?
Oh boy, especially if he like very much influences children like Cersei. I don't know if I will like him at all. He's probably got his fingers in a lot of different things. I don't know. He wouldn't be a king of action. He would be a king that sends people to do stuff. Like, has his fingers everywhere and like has lots of fronts. I would not. This man would not be a savory person, in my opinion. And also, you got to think the Lannisters have so much money. If he is the one in charge of it all, holy cow! Just what has he been doing to get all this money? I love how they bring it up all the time, but no one looks into it. Is that because people who look into it, like, die?
It's like they're like the mob family of Westeros. Like, don't ask how we get our money.
Uh-huh.
No, well, okay.
The Lannisterinis, huh? Sorry, I'm the worst. I'll be quiet.
But do you think, is he gonna be the type of person who is, like, outright about maybe how malicious he is, or is he gonna kind of, like, hard to read, like a Varys or a Littlefinger, or, like, where do you think he falls on that spectrum?
I think he falls on a little bit more, because when Tyrion seems to have a not like of his family, and did he mention to his father? I don't know, but by the way their children act, and by the fact that they seem to like not ever visit or talk to their father, I don't think he's a nice man to be around, and I think he's probably more overt than they are about it.
Gotcha.
Maybe due to older age or whatnot, but I feel as if he'd be one of those ones that would have like those really bitey, stingy remarks. He would never like hit his children, but he would just say like the most hurtful things.
Well, we'll have to see how that is when or if Tywin appears.
Now my headcanon is that he like has a cigar all the time and he sits on there and he has a Tommy gun and he's
in a darkened room making dark deals.
Yes, the Lannisterinis.
The Lannisterinis. Loras takes the fall.
Why didn't Loras take the fall in the fight? Come on, Mountain, you're killing me here. Sorry. I'm probably not done, but I'll apologize every time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, as we have officially reached the half point of season 1, let's have a quick back and forth here, in which I'm going to name a character, and you're going to tell me, just like briefly, like 1, maybe 2 sentences, a prediction for that character in the second half of this season.
Oh boy.
So are you ready for this?
All right.
Okay, we're gonna start simple. Okay. Ned Stark.
I feel like he's gonna Sean Bean it up and die. I don't want him
to. Okay. Catelyn Stark.
Like husband, like wife. She's gotten in real deep.
Do you think she's gonna die?
No, but I feel as if she'll regret her decisions.
Okay. Joffrey.
He's just going to be a simpering a-hole like he's always been. I don't think anything exciting is going to happen with him.
Okay. What about Cersei? What's Cersei going to be doing by the end of the season?
I feel like whatever plans the Lannisters have in place, they're rolling, and she's going to, be more involved in them.
So you think she's going to be like the key player? She's going to be like Alpha Dog Lannister?
Probably. Because Jaime doesn't seem to wear the pants.
Tyrion. What's Tyrion doing by the end of the season?
Poor Tyrion. I think he's going to be able to weasel his way out. I don't know. He's going to be using his smarts to be witty and clever.
As always. What about Daenerys? We didn't see her this episode, but what are your predictions for Daenerys by the end of the season?
I feel like she's going to have her baby by the end of the season.
Okay.
I think that might be, like, her thing. Or maybe even dragons. I would love dragons.
Okay. Bran.
I feel like his sort of high point would be either figuring out the horse contraption works or doesn't.
Okay. And what about Arya? Where is Arya going to be at the end of the season?
Oh boy. I want to say alive first, because if she's not, I'll wreck something. And I feel like she's going to keep on finding out things she shouldn't, and that's going to not be the best for her.
This seems to be a recurring theme with you, is people getting in too deep.
Well, it's mostly a Stark thing.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, what about Sansa?
I feel like she's such a neutral party that's just like, the very stereotypical like princess. She may have a little bit more shock put in her by the end of the season, is my prediction.
Okay. And Theon. What about Theon? We kind of got a little more Theon this episode. Theon Greyjoy.
Okay, yeah, that guy. I gave him the blankest stare of, oh, who?
Yeah, he's like, you just completely didn't realize who Theon was. But to be fair, I don't think we got Theon's name until like maybe last episode.
Nah, it's Ben Greyjoy. He's Ben Greyjoy.
Yeah, they just call him Greyjoy.
If there's some sort of shakeup in House Stark, I feel as if we'll see his loyalty tested. See where his true loyalty lies. That's
true,
my thing for
because
him.
I mean, he is a Ward, he is a Greyjoy, not a Stark. Let's see. Is there anybody else? Let's go with people that we've been talking about a lot this episode. Varys.
Varys. He's gonna have his little webs and whatever is going down. I feel as if one of his big reveals would be like saying a proposed plan to get people across the sea. Oh my god. What if the winter was bad enough that it iced and they could get across? Holy fracking heck. Sorry, I diverged on that. But yeah, basically, we're going to... I don't know if we'll ever truly see where his loyalties lie, but we'll see where he's had his fingers more overtly.
Let's move on to one final one, then. Our current king, Robert. Where's Robert headed by the end of the season?
He's heading to death if he doesn't shape up. I don't know if he'll make it or not, but I just feel as if he's not.
Okay. Well, cool. We're going to check back later and see how accurate some of your predictions were. And I'm sure the results will be interesting for you. So let's move on to our weekly wrap-up questions.
Okay.
We had a lot happen as far as the behind-the-scenes stuff a little bit this episode, seeing how people are playing the game. So let's jump right into there. Who played the game the best this episode?
Oh, boy. I mean, all the Stark's plans are just going up in flames, so I don't really even feel... Which is hard for me to say, because Ned is... like high on the list because he set out what he wanted to do and like turned down things, but then everything turned out wicked horrible for him.
You have to keep in mind that these are like moves on a chessboard, and even though you make a good move and you get dashed later, it doesn't mean anything. So
it's true, but I mean, he stayed true to himself, which probably is not the best move. I just liked it the most.
Yes. This is not a question of who you like the most or who you think
I know.
played it.
I think Varys. Now that we get to see more of him as a character, I think he's playing the best hand.
Yeah. So
I feel it's Varys.
So you're saying, I guess with that in mind, so because he played the game the best, is he going to get the crown this episode? If you had to give out the crown,
he would never be a person to want the crown.
Well, okay. If you had to give the crown though to somebody based on how well they played the game, would Varys get it?
For his contributions, yes, probably.
Okay.
For all the things he's working. Honestly, it's growing on me for Renly being the king. I'd be okay with that. But I feel like if his brother died, he'd probably end up dying too, which is sad. Because then we can't have the most progressive king-king combo ever. Who's getting the crown then? Your final word, Renly or Varys? Varys. For doing the most.
Okay. So Varys wins the crown this week. For playing the game the best. But let's talk about plans, because we kind of touched on that too.
Oh boy.
Who had the best plan this week? Who had the worst?
Oh boy.
I mean,
which Stark do I pick with the worst?
Oh, I know. Nothing seemed to work out like we thought it would.
No, not even at all. Not even a little bit. And it makes me see how poor of a decision Catelyn was bringing them to this. I feel that Ned made the worst choice, because giving up your power in your enemy's turf was literally the dumbest thing he could have done.
Like, it's not even tactical suicide.
It was. He was blindly going with his honor. That was, while I respected him hella much, that was just bad. He's been there for like a few months now, and he doesn't get that he should do all his stuff first. And then as he's walking out of King's Landing, drop the hand thing. Hand symbol.
Like the most epic mic drop in Westeros.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm doing all these things. Peace.
Yeah, it's like, y'all are dumb. Have fun with your backstabbing and weirdness.
Okay, so, but who had the best plan? Who had the worst? Was it
Ned is worst.
Not Catelyn over her plan with Tyrion?
I mean, that's really bad.
I guess it's
I haven't
up
seen
in the air.
I haven't seen it fully played out, but Catelyn is going to live where she's at most likely. Ned is at ridiculously high risk of dying due to multiple things.
He did just get stabbed in the leg with a spear.
Yeah,
so.
and there's freaking arteries in there, man. You don't know if he's gonna make it. Oh my god, that would be so lame. But
who had the best plan?
All right, I'm actually going to go with his bro Robert. As much as I hate to admit it, his plan
to kill Daenerys?
Well, okay, no. We talked about how this is good and bad. Great in that they're going to take away a thing, but bad in that they get a revenge thing.
Right, well, but I think the qualifier here is, though, to be a best plan, it has to work out the best. Like, it has to play out. So even if you think it's, like, good theoretically, if that plan actually played out, do you
Never mind. Thinking about it, I can't give him a best. It's not a bad idea. It's, like, bad as a thing, but I feel like either way, the Dothraki are going to come across the sea.
Okay.
But his plan would maybe work better because if it's any like kind of sense at all, the Dothraki will plan even less about their pillaging. It will just be purely blinded by rage, and they will have there will be a declaration of war, so people have time to prepare more.
Maybe the best plan this week should go maybe to the Targaryens still, even though they weren't in this episode, because I mean everybody here is infighting.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you look at it in that way, honestly, the Targaryens are winning, and I think I'd even mentioned this before because they have a plan and a goal, and they're working towards it, even though there's a little bit of back and forth.
So they're like the metaphorical fist to Westeros, the Five Fingers.
Yeah, because Westeros has the potential to, if the Dothraki come over, just completely fall apart on itself. Because who's to say that, two of those fingers won't just be like, well, screw it, we'll just have the Targaryens be kings again. And, yeah, so looking at it in the broad scheme of things with the way Westeros is, I think Targaryen's plan wins. Because, it's crazy. The more we hear about the Dothraki, the more people are like, oh my goodness, Dothraki, we will die. But they can ride the horse across the sea. But seriously, dude, the pecs.
Okay, well, I guess we can give the Targaryens the best plan this week. But let's be more concrete here when we move on to Stark of the Week.
Yeah.
A lot of their Starks kind of made some questionable choices. Kind of had some things happen to them. So, but who was top Stark this week? Top dog?
Ned won out because it's so refreshing to see him be as annoying as it is to see his honor win out among things. It's refreshing to see a character stick to their guns and not fall to anyone else's little ploys and stuff. Yeah, and Catelyn really kind of showed how just desperate and she was just reaching for it to pin the thing on stuff, and now we fully see how terrible her choice was,
right?
Because her sister's paranoid. Getting that note about watching out for Lannisters means nothing from her because her son knows them. Oh, those are the bad people.
Yes. So Ned gets Stark of the Week this week for being honorable, which is ironic. Even in this episode, Varys tells Ned sometimes in order to do the best thing, you have to be not honorable. And Ned's like, well, screw that. I'm going to be honorable. And then he gets stabbed in the leg.
Instant, oh, darn.
Yes. There's a lot of death this episode, as we mentioned earlier. Our kill count, I think, is now up to 26 total.
Yeah, total.
But this episode, we just had a lot of random people die. But first off, we had some of Ned's men were killed by Lannister. We also had the ambush on the King's Road by the people on the way to the Vale.
Yeah.
So not really a lot of noticeable faces. There was Sir Jorah that died. Would he get worse death, you think, maybe? Or who's gonna get best death?
Best death would be to the dulcimer that exploded. I'm sorry.
I'm totally okay with this. It was a glorious exploding dulcimer.
I mean, I mean, if that actually killed the minstrel, that would be...
Yeah, let's talk about this real quick because it's such like a minor moment in the scene that a lot of people might not recognize what we're talking about. So the scene in which Tyrion and Catelyn and all of them on the King's Road get ambushed, the fight starts when the minstrel, who's just like kind of playing on his dulcimer in the background, like gets like a rock flown at it or something, and it just like
slingshot.
explodes.
Slingshot to the dulcimer, and that's like, it's like, boom, fight scene, roll initiative, and everybody's like, oh!
So, and there was a really glorious dulcimer explosion. Like, you saw the strings fly everywhere. You saw the look on the poor minstrel's face. He's like, no, my dulcimer.
Yeah, but he probably got wrecked real quick. I'm trying to... The thing with it is I don't know if we can necessarily give... It's Jory?
Jory.
Yeah,
yep.
Jory that I just got to like. God dang you.
Yeah, Jory, who died this episode by a knife to the eye.
I honestly think I give it to the worst death to the hill person that got stabbed multiple times in the face with a shield by Tyrion.
Worst death?
Because that sucked. He was definitely not dead that whole time.
That's true. And his head was looking a little bit pulpy by the time that Tyrion was done with it.
Yeah, and I mean, the second worst definitely has to go to Jory, but... And I guess it's more due to the situation because, you know, like, Jaime was just, like, looking at Ned as he, like, killed his right-hand man. It's like, you dick. Best death. Oh boy,
it's okay if you want to leave it with just the dulcimer. I'm fine with this.
I think I'm gonna leave it with the dulcimer because everyone else was like random characters. Like, oh, it was guard number 3 death. That was the best.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to give it to the dulcimer because there's no real other characters that I can name.
I mean, rest in peace, poor dulcimer.
Poor
we only
dulcimer.
knew you for like one episode. I
Rest
think.
in peace, 2015 to 2015 for me.
Well, let's move on then to your feelings about how hopeful you are. I mean, I know it's probably going to be a lot lower this episode, just considering how we ended with Ned getting stabbed in the leg and the Lannisters being all like poop faces.
Yeah.
All
right. So
how hopeful?
Here's
Scale
my
1 to 10.
thing. I'm going to pull on my love of anime and say that this is like the fall that happens. Like the hero gets the crap beat out of them first, and then they make like glorious rise, and you're like, yeah, feel good. Why did I spend 30 hours watching this? And it was for that feel good. So I feel like I'm actually going to stay about 5.5 hopeful.
5.5?
I know that things are going bad for them, and it means that it could go worse due to like the general fan tears that have been spilled across the years. But I don't know. This could be the
like
chance.
Things could rebound.
I feel like this is a chance. Next episode, we're going to know whether they're either going to rebound or whether this is just going to be a slow, steady decline. So I'm hoping for a rebound, but I don't know if it'll happen. And Cameron's being awfully quiet, so...
I've got nothing to say. I think we're just going to leave that score.
Oh, God!
Right there.
Yeah, I'm not... yeah, let's just go. I want to leave this on the most positive 5.5 I can.
Well, it has been fun watching you watch this episode today. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it,
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Even despite everything. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. We have been having a lot of fun recording this.
Yes.
If you have questions that you want to ask to Zach about Game of Thrones in this same leading fashion, if you've seen Game of Thrones before, feel free to do so. You can comment to us on our YouTube channel. You can reach us on Twitter. We're Useful NPCs is our YouTube channel, and you can find us at Useful NPCs on Twitter. We also have a Tumblr under Useful NPCs. Zach's enjoying his Tumblr. I don't understand how someone like Zach has never gotten his hands on Tumblr.
It's literally all like art and fan art and like random
He's
things.
literally like a kid in a candy store with our Tumblr.
It's a problem. It'll probably be amusing to some people.
But yeah, you can reach us there too. So if you got those questions, shoot them at us. Just no spoilers for Zach's sake.
No spoilers, please.
We want to keep Zach as virgin to the experience as possible, so that he is fresh to this when we're going in. Like literally, our process when we record this is we pop on the episode, we watch it, and like literally we get up, turn on the recorder, and boom, start recording. So, like, literally everything you guys are hearing is Zach, like, his raw reacting.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even get time to,
saw.
like, think over my thoughts. That's why I sometimes stumble, because I'm like, no, wait, no,
He hasn't even had time to process.
All right.
Yeah, well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you next time when we find out Zach's impressions of what happens with Ned next episode and what happens with
Just live.
some of these other people.
Just live, Sean Bean.
So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Have a good one.
Goodbye.